Hello everyone. So I'm very happy to be back with you through audio lecture on The Hound of the Baskerville, written by Conan Doyle, a detective novel. Okay, so this lecture begins from Watson meeting Sherlock Holmes. So Watson, after meeting Laura Lyons at Combat Tracy, he straight away comes to this hill to have a survey where he meets Sherlock Holmes. So here it begins. The sun has set, the dusk was settling over the moor. Now, Dr. Watson is in the company of Detective Sherlock Holmes in the hill of Devonshire. Okay? And this meeting proves to be very important because Sherlock Holmes reveals many mysteries that is happening in Devonshire and in the house of Baskerville. So, there are certain mysteries that is revealed here. The first and the foremost is the close intimacy that exists between Mrs. Laura Lyons and Mr. Stapleton. Okay, what is the reason of the intimacy? Secondly, the lady who passed here as Miss Beryl is not really the sister of Mr. Stapleton, then who she is. So now Holmes reveals Dr. Watson that Miss Stapleton, that is Miss Beryl, actually is the wife of the naturalist Mr. Stapleton. So Henry Baskerville falling in love with her could do no harm except Sir Henry. So it's quite astonishing. Why should Stapleton allow his wife to go so close with this Henry when actually she's his wife? So Watson is shocked and he says, "Good heavens, why such deception?" So Holmes says, "It is because to Stapleton she was more useful to him in the character of sister." Okay, so now Dr. Watson is able to associate the smiling face of Stapleton and his murderous heart. He could also understand the warning given by Mrs. Stapleton. You would remember, for the first time when Watson meets Beryl, she says to leave the moor immediately. Yes, so now all gets clear. Okay, all gets clear now. Holmes further clears him that Mr. Stapleton was actually a schoolmaster in the north of England. But because of his maliciousness and wicked behavior, the school which had begun well sank to grief. Hence, he and his wife ran away from there. Okay, so this past is hidden from everybody. Now, the third question arises. If Beryl is his wife, then where does Laura Lyons come in? Maybe Laura Lyons would have had the intention to become his wife as she believes him to be unmarried. That's how Stapleton had projected himself, right? So by now, as they were talking, they were running out of time, and by now the light had faded away. A few faint stars were gleaming in the violet sky. Watson asked, finally, to Holmes, "What does all this mean?" And Holmes' voice sank as he answered, and he says, "It is murder, Watson, refined, cold-blooded murder." Now Watson feared for it because it is too late and Henry is alone. But suddenly, they feel numbness creeping into the body when they hear the terrible howling sound of the hound. They hear a screaming sound of a man and they are terrified. And Holmes runs and followed by Watson. "The hound!" cried Holmes. "Come, Watson, come! Great heavens, we are too late!" Because they very well know that it must be Henry. and they go near somehow to save, but they could do nothing. They go near and they see the body of the dead man. They mistake him for Sir Henry, as the man was wearing the ruddy tweed coat of Sir Henry. Watson becomes very angry on Stapleton. Okay? And he also blames himself for the death of Henry because he left him alone. So because of which this had happened. But a sigh of relief comes when they turn the body and find it to be Selden, the criminal. Actually, Barrymore had passed on this old robe of Henry to Selden, the brother of Mrs. Barrymore. However, one thing is clear, that the hound is somewhere here. It is very, very real. By the time Stapleton too appears the scene and is puzzled at the sight of Holmes because he never expected him. And that too at this part. However, he hides his amazement. Okay, he's a fine actor. So, for finding the dead body of Selden instead of Henry. He was very amazed to see the dead body of Selden. He thought it would be Henry, but still he hides it. Now the question is still in darkness. Like, why man like Henry must be murdered? Why? He has just come. He has no enemy here. Why should he be murdered? Secondly, Stapleton's meeting with Holmes would make him to speed up his next course of action, and at any moment Sir Henry would be attacked. His life is under a risk. Okay, anything may happen to him at any moment. So hereafter, Holmes, Watson and Henry, they have to be very careful and vigilant. So I end my lecture here. In the next lecture, let's see what further happens. Okay, could Sherlock Holmes protect this Baronet Henry Baskerville? Let's see in the next video and what is all about this hound, right? Thank you, students.